All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. And in this video, we're going to talk about Terence Bud Crawford's response to Errol Spence Jr. and the surgery that he had to remove cataracts and some things that he said relative to the fight that took place with Terence Crawford. Predictably fun stuff. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to be in the 147, 154 pound division, where the boxing world was shook up yesterday as Errol Spence Jr. made an announcement and showed on videotape that as he was coming out of surgery for cataracts being removed in what I think was his right eye, he explained what took place and said that he had to remove cataract, had to have a cataract removed. And he said, "Why do you think I got hit by so many jabs and hooks by Terence Crawford?" But he said, "Hey man, you know, good win, still, right?" And then went on to say several other things. Terence Crawford responds with a comment which was no comment, but at the same time, you know what that means. It means he's blowing it off like a lot of people are and pretty much just saying, man, I ain't trying to hear all of that. Unfortunately though, man, you're going to have to hear it. And I'm going to talk about exactly why you have to hear it, but it ain't going to be what you think. Now, before I get into that though, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are new to the channel, please accept my invitation to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. And if you're a longtime subscriber and supporter of the channel, thank you so much for your continued support. I greatly appreciate you guys coming by the channel. Thank you to everybody that supports in the super thanks. It really makes a big difference in the channel. So thank you, Matty Yo. Thank you to the usual suspects that come by and do that. But let's get into this because I love it. I'm telling you, man, I think this is hilarious because Errol Spence Jr. lost to Terence Crawford back in July. And Errol Spence Jr. himself didn't say anything about the fight for a very long time. Stayed off social media, made a little statement here, made a statement there, said, I do believe the one thing that he did say was that if I had an excuse, I wouldn't tell you, right? So fast forward to yesterday, which was January 8th of 2024, some 5 months later, or 6 months later, almost 6 months later, and Errol Spence Jr. comes out of surgery for cataract with his eye covered up. And he says the things that he says, that, hey, you know, this is something I had to do. And this is what it is. This is what the surgery was. And why do you think, added to it, why do you think I got hit with so many jabs and hooks by your boy? Right? Saying that he had a cataract in his eye at the time. Now, that's the first thing that we have heard from him. Now, people are coming out and saying that's an excuse. Now, and they list a series of excuses that Errol Spence has made, which is not true. Errol did not say anything about running up a hill. That was Virgil Hunter and Victor Conti that said that. But there's issues with the ribs that took place, right? Being dehydrated. Some other guy came up and said something about a doctor talked about residual neurological damage, all kind of other stuff like this. But this is actually the only thing that Errol Spence Jr. himself has said. Now, why would he say it? I would say that it's for two reasons. One is, as soon as he is seen anywhere out with a patch over his eye, somebody's going to take a picture of that and they're going to go to the internet. So he might as well let people know what happened. Number two, with all of the absolutely ridiculous attacks that have been made on Errol Spence Jr. over the last 7 months, over the last 6 months, man, he almost has to say something, because somehow if you don't say anything, your reputation is just going to keep getting assaulted and assaulted and assaulted by these YouTube and Twitter trolls. I'm not on Instagram nearly as much, but at the end of the day, what does it really matter? Right? The people that are going to believe it are going to believe it. The people that are not going to believe it are not going to believe it. And then we're going to watch the fight and see what happens in the rematch. Now, as far as Terence Crawford saying no comment, that's exactly what he's supposed to say. That's exactly what he's supposed to think. He's supposed to think that there are a bunch of excuses that are used to tear down, to take away from his victory, and he doesn't buy it. There's other people that are not buying it, right? But whatever the case is, man, as far as that particular surgery, do you not buy that it's a cataract surgery that he had? Or do you think that he just put on a patch on his eye and got on camera and was pretending like he had surgery, right? Like he had some family members, push a wheelchair out of the hospital, right? And or wherever it was that he was, where he had that surgery, more obviously, it's a hospital. You think people just set that up and that was not really a surgery at all, and he just did it to say that he had it and it didn't make any difference? I think that's a little far flung to think that Errol Spence would just make up having surgery and do it in such detail, go to such great lengths that he'd have a young, look like maybe a 14, 15-year-old girl push him out of a hospital in a wheelchair, right? More than likely, he actually had the surgery. More than likely, that's what the surgery actually was, because Errol Spence himself doesn't really have too much of a history of lying. Now, does that mean anything about what happened in the fight or what didn't happen in the fight? I mean, it may not. Errol Spence may have had a cataract, be able to see perfectly clearly, and still lose to Terence Crawford. It's completely and utterly possible. Also, it's Errol's responsibility if he's not prepared to go into a fight, to make sure that he either doesn't go into the fight, or he goes in, or he holds up the fight until he's 100% prepared for that. I can understand why he wouldn't do that, seeing as he's had since he was coming off such a long layoff, and a long layoff before that. And hey, man, the little kids that are right behind him, pushing him out of that, pushing him in that wheelchair, that's probably a family member, and family members that rely upon him for income. So like everybody else, even if you may not be feeling that well, you got to get up and you got to go to work. That's just what reality is. But anyway, it doesn't matter whether he made an excuse or not, other than fueling conversations on YouTube. We'll see what happens when the fight takes place. Now, if the fight doesn't take place, say it goes off too much further and that fight has to be held up, hey, man, let Terence Crawford get active. He can go get that IBF belt back at 147 pounds. But I will tell you this, Terence Crawford didn't say anything about the fight being at 147 because Errol said it was his eye that was hurt, as people tell me was the case. But anyway, that's my take on the matter. Please let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Deuces.